Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, June 15th. Today's live session, 5 o'clock every Wednesday with me, Martin Victor, your native speaking IELTS tutor. I've been teaching IELTS, TOEFL, spoken English, and interview preparation for 8 years now. And I do this here in India, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy teaching and helping students grow and become more than what they are. So welcome. It's nice to see you all. Those who have joined or are about to join, please do say hello so I know who you are. Hopefully I'll see some familiar faces. Today is going to be basically a wrap, kind of a wrap up of the last month worth, last 4 weeks of sessions I've done. I've talked about, last week I talked about writing the body paragraphs. Before that, how to write the introduction. Then talked about planning, and then how to identify the essay prompts. So today is basically, we're going to talk about the final part of the essay, which is what's the final part of the essay? You guys tell me who's joined. Don't forget to say hello. Be nice to see who you are. Don't be shy. So, well, obviously, you probably know from the title, I'm going to be talking about writing the conclusion. That's the final part of the essay. But it's not quite, it's the final part of the essay that you write, but it's not the final part you should do. That's another issue altogether. And that's probably, I think maybe next week I'll be talking about writing tips. So I'll have to check to see what's been done so far in writing. And that, but I think next week will be writing tips. So say hello. I got some people online. Say hello. Do say hello. So, but I want to be talking about how to write a conclusion. You know, if you follow the tips that I'm going to give you and the strategy, kind of the method of writing, you're going to write really good conclusion for your essay. And the conclusion is one of the easiest, just like the conclusion. Once you understand how to do it, it's going to be very easy. The hardest part, I really think, are the body paragraphs, because you have to come up with the ideas, the examples, the details to talk about. The conclusion is something different. So, and we're going to take a look at why. So why don't we move on? Okay, so now, the conclusion is more than just a body paragraph. I mean, the final paragraph. It's not just the final paragraph. It's an important part of the essay. It's essential, okay? It's an essential part of the essay because it provides the following. And this is what it provides. Basically a wrap up of your thesis, which is your opinion about the topic, and your supporting points, the points that you have to support your ideas. Okay, so that's what it provides. But it's also a statement of the thesis, is how the thesis is relevant to the topic. So I'm sorry about the confusing line there, but it says also a statement of the restatement of the thesis and how relevant it is to the topic. So the thesis, the relevancy of the thesis to the topic. So that's what I mean by that. So, okay, now, but in addition to those things, the conclusion also emphasizes the importance of the main points and your thesis as well. That's what they do. That's what the conclusion does. It also emphasizes the importance of the main points and the thesis. So wraps up your thesis and supporting points. It provides a how the relevancy of your thesis to the topic. And finally, it emphasizes the importance of your main points and the thesis. Hello, we got some new people joining in. Do say hello. Nice to see you. Now let's move on. So, like I said, your conclusion is more than just the final paragraph. And this is another thing. This is another important part. The conclusion gives a reader a sense of closure, and that's important. The reader needs to kind of know when your essay is finished, and that's the other purpose of the conclusion. It's basically to let the reader know that you're finished. So let's move on now. Now, tips for writing a good conclusion, okay, are, first of all, it refers back to the introduction. And I'll explain the tips in the next few slides, but the first is it refers back to the introduction. Then it summarizes the essay's primary argument, which is basically your thesis. You also want to avoid repetition as well, okay? Remember, you're going to be repeating your thesis, your main points, so you want to avoid repetition. Then you want to give your opinion. You want to restate your thesis. Finally, you do not want to introduce new ideas or arguments, because then that opens your essay up to more. It's almost like you're ending a chapter and starting a new one. And so an essay is just a short essay about a topic and you want to conclude, you want your conclusion to conclude it. You don't want to introduce new ideas, new arguments to discuss. So you want to avoid that. Okay. Now, tip 1, refer back to the introduction. Now, the introduction and conclusion are closely linked. Okay. Keep this in mind. The introduction and conclusion are closely linked. So basically, you're going to return to your ideas that are presented in the introduction. Okay, so this would be the main topic. You get that from the essay prompt. The viewpoints from the essay, which you get from the essay prompt. Your thesis, which is your opinion on the topic. Now, if you're a little bit confused what I mean by essay prompt, I would look back at my first video on writing where I talk about understanding the essay prompt. I really recommend that you do that, okay? So now, again, you also want to include your thesis. Again, this is your opinion on the topic. Your supporting points, if you add them. You may not add your supporting points in the introduction, but you certainly want to include them in your conclusion. So that's why I write if added. Now, summarize. Tip 2, summarizing the essay's primary argument. Okay. Now, basically, you're going to summarize the thesis in light of the topic. And this is why I talk about relevancy here. You're going to summarize it in a way that shows how the thesis is relevant to the topic. And that's important because remember, what you write is relevant, has to be relevant. And how it has to be interconnected with the same topic. Now, you also want to summarize your supporting points and how they support your thesis, or how advantages outweigh disadvantages. So if you have the advantage and disadvantage essay, you want to talk about you want to summarize how the advantages or the disadvantages outweigh the other. Or if you're talking about comparing two different viewpoints, you want to summarize how one view is more valid than the other, or how the problems can be solved if you get the problem and solution type essay. Okay, so that's what you want to, that's what you're going to summarize. depending on the type of essay. Now, tip 3, avoiding repetition. All right. Keep in mind, summarizing is not repeating. And the reason why is you're not going to repeat the language used in the body paragraphs. You know, you want to vary your words and your sentence structures. So this means you paraphrase. I've talked about paraphrasing before. Okay. Very important that you paraphrase. And so by paraphrasing, you're going to show that you can use a wider range of vocabulary and grammatical structures. And that's important because it can help improve your lexical resources and grammatical structures band score. So that's what you want to do. Tip 4, you want to give your opinion. Okay. So basically, even though your opinion should be stated in the introduction, and sometimes students don't always state their opinion in the introduction. I always recommend that you do, but it definitely has to be in the conclusion. If you do not state your introduction your opinion, your thesis in the introduction, you have to do this in your conclusion. Okay, it's really mandatory. And if you did state it in your introduction, you still need to restate it in your conclusion. Okay, so your opinion always goes into the conclusion. So, like I said, make sure you state it in the conclusion. And it's important because this is why I'm saying it, why you need to do this. Okay. You can't summarize without it. Remember, the conclusion is a summary of your thesis and your main points in relevance to the topic. Okay, that's why. All right, now, tip 5, you don't want to introduce a new argument. I basically explained this further back, but to kind of review, you do not raise new points or opinions, okay? As I said, that opens up your essay to further, it doesn't fully conclude the essay. So you want to make sure your conclusion ends the essay. And remember, the conclusion is to close your essay. Basically, your conclusion signals that to the reader that your essay is finished. That's it. Okay. Now, how to write it? How to write your conclusion? It's a 4-step process. So if you follow these steps, you'll write a good conclusion here. Now, step 1, begin with a connector. Okay. Begin with a connector, such as to conclude, in conclusion, in closing, for instance. Those are examples there. All right. But keep in mind that the connector must be formal in tone. Right. It's important that the connector must be formal in tone. You don't want to start your conclusion with in a nutshell. That's informal. The essay is academic speech, and so you want to stick to a formal tone of speech. Okay. So keep in mind, you don't have to use these connectors that I've given you, but what you should use should be formal. Okay. Step 2, you want to restate your thesis. Make sure you paraphrase it. Okay. Step 3 is you summarize your supporting points or both viewpoints if you get the essay prompt that asks you to talk about both views or advantages or disadvantages. You want to talk about whichever you feel is stronger. So if you feel the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, you want to summarize the advantages. Or you want to summarize the problems and solutions to those problems. Okay. And then step 4, you want to give an additional opinion that's related, that's relevant, or a call for action. So, and now I have an example of a conclusion that you can use. So for example, we have here the following essay prompt. Some people feel that equality between the genders has already been achieved, while others feel there's considerable progress to be made. You're asked to discuss both views and give your opinion. So I'm just kind of going through the preparation. It's kind of this slide is kind of a quick review of preparation for the essay, but it's useful to do this for us to be able to write the conclusion. So the topic is about gender disparity, and that's actually a very good word for you. Actually, term gender disparity, which means unequal, unequal. So, and disparity means unequal. Okay. So the viewpoints here, the first one is gender equality has been achieved. Second is has not been achieved. Then we have our points. So these are the points that I'm going to talk about in the conclusion, so you have an idea. So view one, and I'm going. So we have developed countries earning equal earnings, women have great job opportunities, women have more freedoms. Then view two, developing nations, women have less freedom, lower wages, less opportunity, such as education and jobs. And so if I were to write the full essay, I would choose, my view is going to be, I'm going to say view two has more validity, okay? So meaning it's more valid, has more weight. And so now my thesis, gender disparity still exists and much more needs to be done. So that's my thesis. Now let's take a look at our sample conclusion. So here is the sample conclusion. I'll give you some time to read it really quick, and then I'll explain the different parts that I have marked here. Okay, you can probably guess what they are. So go ahead and read this for a little bit. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to read this. Now, if you look at the book, even though I don't start with in conclusion, I start with kind of contrast. It's okay to do this. It does signal the whole paragraph as a whole indicates a closing of this, but I chose here to write even though to show how you can use elements of style, which can really help in your lexical resources. And elements of if you use elements of style, and if you're aware of style, that can, and you do well with that, that can score you 7 and above. Okay, so I start this with a contrast to kind of close, but I could easily use in conclusion as well to indicate the closing. But I just want to show you that you can use a connector like this to indicate style. Okay. So my first sentence starts with the connector and basically restates the essay prompt. Basically restates the essay prompt, the main topic from the essay prompt. And then in green, the next sentence in green is basically my thesis. That's my thesis for this. So, and then in the following sentence, what you can see underlined are the supporting points. Those are the supporting points. And then the sentence in the final paragraph in blue is basically a call for action, meaning I'm making the suggestion that more needs to be done and that all nations need to promote it. So that's my conclusion. If you follow this type of pattern, you'll write a really good conclusion, which will really help you write a very good essay. So that's the sample conclusion. Now, to review the conclusion tips, it's essential. Remember, it's an essential part of the essay. And the tips here, you want to refer back to the introduction, summarize the essay's primary argument, avoid repetition, give your opinion, and don't introduce new arguments or ideas. Okay? Now, the steps for writing, you want to begin with a connector, restate the thesis, summarize your supporting points, and then give an additional opinion or call for action. I really recommend this format, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, are the order of sentences you use, okay? I really recommend that because it'll be easier for you to follow, okay? So that's really what I recommend. Now, that's it for today's session. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Great to have you here. I don't think we have any questions. I haven't seen any questions show up, but that's okay. It's really great to have you here. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, here on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you want more information about My IELTS Tutor, click on the button below and one of our representatives will get in touch with you. But now I want to talk about My IELTS Tutor. My IELTS Tutor is the premium online IELTS training service throughout the world. And we have students worldwide. We have students worldwide. So, but I think My IELTS Tutor is better than, say, a brick and mortar institute where you sit in a classroom with 20 to 30 other students and you're getting regurgitated material. You're not getting the attention you need. But with My IELTS Tutor, you get more. You definitely get more. You get all these things that are listed here. One-to-one speaking, ebooks, PDFs, essay bank, vocabulary building tools, live strategy and tips sessions, which this is, and they're free. A lot of what we offer is free. Most people can take part of it. But what we offer you instead, that's really good, I think really makes it My IELTS Tutor superior is, first of all, you get individual attention. Our classroom size for group online sessions are about 4 to 5 students maximum, no more than that. We also offer one-to-one training. So if you want one-to-one training with myself or someone else, we can arrange that for you. But finally, you get a customized study plan that takes into account your strengths and your weaknesses. And so we take that, we develop that plan for you, and we work it so that your weaknesses, where the areas you are weak, improve, and the areas where you're strong are enhanced. And this way, you can easily increase your band scores. And that's important. So these are the primary tutors for My IELTS Tutor. Myself, Nana, and Ms. Amita. Together we have around 30 years of experience. And we're always happy to help you. That's right. And here are some of our recent scores from our students. And one of the things we do is we plan for 8 bands. Our strategies are 8+ bands. We don't settle for anything less. We shoot for 8+ bands for all our students. And so that's our goal, that's our commitment. And because it's our commitment to you, that's right, to you, we will do everything we can to help you get that score. That's our commitment to you. We will do everything we can to help you get the score you want. And we always shoot for 8 bands. So this means that your bands are our responsibility. That's right. Your bands are our responsibility. And so we work very hard to give you the best material for you. We do work very hard to encourage you, to help you improve, to do everything we can to help you rise above and scoring 8 bands and higher. So that's our commitment to you. And that's it for today. I want to thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure having you, and I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want more information about My IELTS Tutor and you want to learn from tutors like myself, be sure to click on the button below, and I'll see you guys next week.